The ultimate tournament of everything.
Welcome to the Tournament of Everything, a bracket-style show where we compare everything that ever was against everything else that ever could be.
Absolutely correct, Rob, and we do so by assigning a random number to each random element of infinity. We then type that random number into this here safe full of gosh knows what next to me, which one will open it up and reveal us to be either totally rich or otherwise. Well, that will be the selection moving on to the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
You know, I didn't buy a lottery ticket, so I do not have $1.2 billion, so your idea sounds kind of great right now.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, except for I don't actually have electricity in the bunker that I'm in right now, and so it's an electrical pad. We're not going to get in either way. Can we just randomly generate contestants off of Wikipedia?
I guess if we have to, we can.
All right, let's do that. And let's do this, which is get into round one.
In round one, we have Christian Apologetics and Research Ministry against Colville Ranger.
All righty, yes, we do. We have a whole bunch of people who, apologetics, but I don't think they were sorry about being so, versus a ranger who was actually a strategy and communications executive. So both things, not what they seem. Let's dig into what they actually are.
The Christian Apologetics and Research Ministry, also known as CARM, is a nonprofit, non-denominational Protestant apologetics ministry with an internet and radio outreach. It has evolved in evangelism, including full-time support for several foreign missionaries. It is based in the United States and was founded in 1995, and Matthew Slick currently serves as president of their ministry.
Yeah, he's a pretty slick operator, as this ministry is registered as a 501c3 organization headquartered in Nampa, Idaho now. In November of 1995, this Matthew Slick compiled his sermons and notes together onto Computer and created a website for the Christian Research Ministry. And by 2000, he had claimed his website was receiving over 14,000 visits per week. He created a Christian apologetics notebook presentation in a 3-ring binder, which offered material from the website in a printed medium.
That's nice that they have printed medium and computer.
Yes.
Compiled onto computer.
Computer is very helpful if one has computer. If you don't have a computer, it would be hard to compute. But what was not difficult to compute was the total of things that were outside of the computer. It looks like he had sold over 3,000 copies of the physical notebook, and then he compiled them all into a CD-ROM format, which kind of blended the two together.
Columnist Kyle Thomas of Tribune Media Services comments that Christian Apologetics and Research Ministry, the website, carm.org, has created a useful chart that shows the conflicting claims of classic Christian belief and Muslim doctrines, and is worth studying whatever's one's faith, I guess, in computer or 3-ring binder format. Now, I wonder if our competitor on the other side, Colville Singh Ranger, has a 3-ring binder of his own.
Well, he likely does, and it's probably full of all sorts of important things because, as said, he was a strategy and communications executive and a Tech UK board member. There's a lot of information to be contained within this individual. He became well known after he was headhunted to become director for transport policy by Boris Johnson, it's already been a couple UK prime ministers ago, and he won the mayoral after Johnson was even just a mayor. His previous experience in implementing the Oyster card system for London was key in him becoming his selection.
Now, you really can't measure time in prime ministers because what was the last one, like 40 days, something like that? I have things in my fridge that have been there and they're longer than that prime minister was in charge of that country.
You should see to that.
Yeah, I probably should. Now, the Oyster card system was a digital payment platform that they used with public transport. And in 2011, Ranger then became Director of Environment in Digital London, and his work resulted in a record fall in bike thefts, in addition to a number of new electric car charging points in London to encourage a higher take-up of electric vehicles. He is currently in talks on digital transformation and works as a management consultant, also a special advisor to the UK government on digital strategy.
Now, he was such a significant individual that he's also on the long list to be the Conservative Party candidate for the 2021 London mayoral election. I don't think that he was elevated to the short list. However, just a little bit about the man. He's a Sikh. He was born in Hammersmith in West London, the son of Indian parents, and his grandfather Gurnam Singh Sahni set up the first British Asian newspaper called the Punjab Times in the mid 60s.
He even gained an honors degree in architecture from the University College London. He also has a business diploma from Kingston Business School. So this is a man who knows his stuff, can put it into action, and is well known for reducing bike thefts.
Yeah, but he did have a lot of papers that could have been contained within three-ring binders or converted into forms to be placed on computer, as did our other competitor, Christian Apologetics and Research Ministry, although those papers and information were not without their criticism from, it seems, a number of sources, including the Catholics, who state that let's see. His attacks on Catholicism present either a straw man version of Catholic teaching or misrepresents it completely, as well as being unreceptive to correction from Catholic sources. They also objected to his use of the term Roman Catholic. There were other contestations, shall we say, of his work by a Trent Horn of Catholic Answers and Ferris Murdoch as well, in addition to the Mormons.
Well, if you can upset both the Catholics and the Mormons, that always makes for a fun day, I would suppose. Now, the question is, the man who started putting things on computer, then through ring binder, then CD, then back on computer, is he going to be better than the last guy with the really cool name?
Yeah, I don't think so, frankly. His inefficiencies in information placement and appears controversial nature of that information seem to contrast starkly with that of Cool Veer Ranger. You know what? Even his first name is cool. So I think that given his success, his lauding, and the fact that his name is so awesome, I'm going to choose him as my selection. Move on to the next round of
The ultimate tournament junk everything.
What do you think, Cool Rob?
I believe I can agree with that. I think Colvier has done a lot of good things, and he's young in his career. I think he will continue to be doing things, and he might even be the next prime minister, especially if they keep going through them at the rate they are.
Well, if they keep going through them at the rate they are, then we all might be the next prime minister. But that's not going to be today or right now. What is next right now is round two.
It's time for round two.
In round two, we have round one Corporation against Chauncey Samuel Boucher.
Oh man, a day late and a dollar short, round one Corporation, but we'll see if you're able to be victorious either way. And Chauncey Samuel Boucher, oh gosh, another great name, American academic and historian. Let's see which one, round one or this real smart guy, are going to be able to move on to round two.
Round one Corporation is a Japan-based amusement store chain. In Japan, these amusement centers offer bowling alleys, arcade games, karaoke, and billiards. They also have a larger variation of round one known as Spocha, abbreviated for Sports Challenge, that offers a variety of items and indoor-outdoor activities such as batting cages, basketball, volleyball, tennis, futsal, driving ranges, And it sounds like this is just really the great place you'd want to go. It sounds like the places in America that have the mini golf and the batting cages and the go-karts, this is their version of that.
Yeah, this sounds great. And, it's not just in Japan. Round One Entertainment Inc., it turns out, is an American subsidiary of Round One Corporation. The amusement centers in the U.S. offer a wide variety of bowling, arcade, video game arcades, or I'm sorry, bowling and karaoke, video game arcade cabinets, redemption games, billiards, darts, ping pong, and all the while they serve a variety of food and beverage.
Well, that's always nice. Now, it sounds like there are 107 stores open in Japan, and in the U.S., there are currently stores in many states, even some in Wisconsin. Now,
Hey
Round
now.
One locations in the U.S. offer many exclusive Japanese arcade games, which is something that other arcades rarely or cannot ever offer, such as Dance Dance Revolution A3, Sound Voltex, Exceed Gear, Groove Coaster. Uh, it sounds like those really active arcade games where you're moving your whole body, not just your hands.
Yeah, it sounds like a blast. It sounds like a place where you can really work out your body while having a good time. But let's jump over to our other competitor who seemed to have a good time working out his mind. Chauncey Samuel Boucher was born 14th of June, 1886, and he lived all the way to the 13th of August in 1955. As said, an American academic and historian, born in Chicago, the son of Chauncey Watson Boucher and Elizabeth Celestia Van Loon. Just great names so far today.
Yeah, he was a professor of history at the University of Chicago, president of West Virginia University, and chancellor of the University of Nebraska. And he died in Petoskey, which I think we had a listener submitted correction on this. This
Yes.
Petoskey came up earlier, and we called it, I think, Petoskey or Petoskey. Petoskey, apparently. The Michiganders were upset. So he passed away there, 1955, age of 69. And that is the entirety of his Wikipedia article.
Absolutely. But it did offer us an opportunity to show evidence that, hey, we're listening. So don't forget to comment, rate, and let us know exactly what you think, because I tell you what, we're listening. As are our other competitor, Round One Corporation, very interested in what's going on because they're in tight competition. Round One, and as you may have heard of, Dave and Buster's are the only two entertainment centers in the United States that have e-amusement, which is an online service integrated into some Konami arcade games. This just sounds like a great time, a really fun night, and not only in Japan and the United States can you experience this fun. If you find yourself in China or Russia and you're looking for something good to do, they also have services available there.
Now, I really hope I don't ever find myself in Russia just randomly looking for something to do. But I think if I were driving around looking for something to do here in Wisconsin and I ran across one of these Round One centers, I think I'd want to go in. And I think there is definitely enough room for more than one player in the adult arcade space, although I don't think there's room for more than one competitor in this round.
No, and I'm going to have to agree with you completely. I think that Round One Corporation, it's larger than itself. It expands beyond the confines of just one round, and I think that's the exact reason that we have to elevate it from Round One into the inevitable Round Two. So I'm putting my hammer down for it.
I think that's great. And I think because it is the winner and it is named Round One, I think our traditional winner music should instead be.
Round one.
You're moving on to round two. And we, as victors as well, because we're getting to experience all of this competitive joy, are moving on to round three.
Three. It's time for round three.
In round three, we have Little Berkhamsted against William Horne, the English politician.
And the great names just keep on coming. Little Berkhamsted, large in stature, little in name, versus William Horn. Watch out, he's sharp. Let's see which one will prevail. Let's jump right in.
Little Berkhamsted is a village and civil parish in Hertfordshire, England, 5 miles southwest of the town of Hertford. The village is in a hilly location, some 400 feet above sea level. It has a row of weatherboarded cottages opposite St. Andrew's Church. Conservative cabinet minister Reginald Mauding and his widow Beryl are buried in the churchyard. Nearby, there is an Elizabethan house and Stratton's Folly, a 1789 brick tower.
I can already tell I like this article. I like when they throw in flavor words. And I also like when things that have shown up previously in this tournament of everything, which I'm sure as we go through, the vastness of infinity will only increase in frequency. I'm excited about it. Show up again. The manor of Little Berkhamsted is mentioned in the aforementioned in a previous episode for all of our dedicated listeners, the Domesday Book, as Birchamstede, when it was held by Hardwin de Scales. The parish church of St. Andrew is faced with Kentish ragstone. It has a wooden bell cote for 3 bells, and the church was first mentioned in the 12th century, but was totally rebuilt in 1647, although little from that date survived reconstruction in the 19th century.
Now, while we're talking about things that are British from the 19th century, I think it's only fitting that we also talk about William Horne. Sir William Horne, born in 1774, passed away July 13th, 1860, British barrister and Liberal politician. He's the son of Reverend Thomas Horne of Chiswick, and he studied law at Lincoln's Inn, being called to the bar in 1798.
Oh, and so many of us are called to the bar in so many years, but this one in particular. Now, his legal career began as it was pretty prestigious here. He was elected as Whig Member of Parliament for Helston and Cornwall. Now, he only served as the town's MP for a single term and was unseated in the next election in 1818. And upon losing his seat, he returned to law, becoming a King's Counsel and bencher of Lincoln's home, distinguishing himself in the courts of chancery, and was even briefly Attorney General to Queen Adelaide.
Now, on November 26, 1830, he was appointed Solicitor General for England and Wales, at which time he was also knighted. The office required him to hold a seat in Parliament, and he was duly returned as member of Bletchingley on the 18th of February, 1831. Parliament was resolved in April of that same year, and in the ensuing general election he became member for Newton, Isle of Wight. His tenure in this seat was also brief, as it was abolished in the following year by the Great Reform Act. Horne became one of 2 MPs for the newly enfranchised parliamentary borough of Marylebone, London, and in November of that year he was promoted to Attorney General for England and Wales. It sounds like this guy has been in politics in some area around there over and over again, but different ones all the while.
That's true, and perhaps his elevation to any one of those positions of power may have been a folly. But speaking of folly, let's jump back over to our little friend, Little Berkhamsted, and talk about Stratton's Tower, located therein, also known as Stratton's Folly. It's a 5-story, 97-foot tall observation tower in the village, built in 1789 for John Stratton, a gentleman who lived at Gaze, since renamed the Gage. Legend has it that John Stratton was a retired admiral and that he wanted to see ships in the Thames. However, he was a nonconformist, a do-funny, if you will, and as such would have been unable to hold a commission under the crown. And the earliest known reference to the building describes it as a prospect tower. But after being derelict for more than 100 years, it was restored and converted to living accommodation in 1971 by William Tatton Brown. It is a grade 2 star listed building.
You always got to love those grade 2 buildings. We've had several of them in this competition, and this one might be the grade 2est. Now the question is Little Berkhamsted worth the recognition and the continuing acknowledgement, or do we add one more feather to the illustrious cap that is the hat of William Horne?
Well, I fear that if we did so, like so many have done before, we would only have to remove it after a short period of time. So I'm really thinking no. I mean, this William Horn. I'm not going to toot his horn because I don't think he's as good as Big Little Burke Hamstead.
I think I have to agree with you. Towns do really well in this competition because we always would love to visit, get a nice picture, maybe even have a quaint lunch, whereas a person, we've really done all the learning we can.
Absolutely. So, if you'd like us to come and visit your little town, hey, we're down for travel, we're down for free tickets, and we're down for round four.
Ah, my round 4 is ready.
In round 4, we have Robert Vesco against Peabody Energy.
Okay. Yep. Two people, two entities, two competitors here involved in a lot of things that appear to have involved a lot of money. One knowingly shady, the other, shoot, I don't know. I haven't looked into their books, nor have I looked into this article. So let's jump in and see which one of these is going to come out a little shinier than the other.
I don't want to get sued for libel, but I think we're going to have some scandal in both rounds. Now,
Let's go.
Robert Vesco was an American criminal financier. After several years of risky investments and dubious credit dealings, he was alleged to have committed securities fraud. He immediately fled the ensuing U.S. Securities Exchange Commission investigation by living in a number of Central American and Caribbean countries. You know, the ones without extradition.
Yeah, this guy was notorious throughout his life. At one point, attempting to buy a Caribbean island from Antigua to create an autonomous country having a national law in Costa Rica made to protect him from extradition. He was trying to buy his own country so that he couldn't get in trouble for anything he did elsewhere. A 2001 Slate.com article termed Vasco, quote, the undisputed king of fugitive financiers. And after settling in Cuba during 1982, he was charged with drug smuggling in 1989 and during the 90s was indicted by the Cuban government for fraud and illicit economic activity and acts prejudicial to the economic plans and contracts of the state.
Now, he was eventually caught and sentenced to 13 years in jail in Cuba. Now, it's reported that he had died of lung cancer at a hospital in Cuba, but it's also been suggested that maybe he faked his death to avoid continuing jail time.
Yeah, hey, 50-50. And I guess we'll never really know. But what we do know is where he came from. He was the son of Detroit auto worker, also born in Detroit, grew up and attended and then quit Cass Technical High School. He quit engineering school during his early 20s, went on to work for an investment company, and after a brief period, he made an independent $800 stake matching buyers and sellers in the aluminum market until he eventually acquired a portion of the profits of a floundering aluminium plant.
I'm trying to figure out why this man turned to crime because by 1968, he had shares totaling $50 million in legitimate businesses.
Well, when you've got a lot, you're never happy. You just want more and more, they say. And I think that's kind of the case with a lot of our money-based contestants that have shown up previously. Enough is never enough. So he began a successful takeover bid for Investors Overseas Services Limited, which was a mutual fund investment company with a holding of 1.5 billion. Who had gotten in trouble with the SEC. His company began to experience financial difficulty, and no, quote, white knight was willing to get involved. So he looks like that's when things started, getting a little bit shady. And eventually something called the Nixon scandal occurred.
Well, why don't we move over to Peabody Energy and maybe we can talk about Nixon a little bit later. So, Peabody Energy is a coal mining and energy company headquartered in St. Louis, Missouri. Its primary business consists of the mining, sale, and distribution of coal, which is purchased for use in electricity generation and steelmaking. Peabody also markets, brokers, and trades coal through offices in China, Australia, the United Kingdom, in addition to the United States, and in 2017 recorded sales of 191.5 million tons of coal.
Yeah, that is a lot of coal, and they're operating. They have ownership of majority interests in 23 surface and underground mining operations located throughout the United States and Australia. In the United States alone, they've got mines in Alabama, Wyoming, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, Illinois, and Indiana. Looks like their largest operation is in North Antelope Rochelle Mine in Campbell County, Wyoming. um, but after being named to Fortune magazine's list of America's Most Admired Companies in 2008, Peabody saw a $787 million of losses and was ultimately removed from the S&P 500 and had its rating downgraded to underperform and negative by Goldman Sachs and others.
Well, it's not all bad because remember, if you're a company, you can just apply for bankruptcy, change your name, and then hey, you're not broke anymore.
As they did on April 3rd of 2017, and they started trading on the New York Stock Exchange with the ticker symbol BTU, changed the logo, and apparently everybody forgot everything that they had failed on previously, and looks like they ranked at 491 on the Fortune 500 list in 2018 again.
Yeah, all they did was drop their last name. They went from Peabody Energy to just Peabody, and they're like, "Look, guys, we're not broke anymore. Can you believe it? We can't.
Oh,
We can't
man.
believe it." Which is why there's also going to be a scandal that shows up for them as well. So this is the Black Mesa controversy. And in 1964, Peabody Energy's subsidiary Peabody Western Coal signed a series of lease agreements with the Navajo tribe and 2 years later with the Hopi tribe for mineral rights as well as use of the water. Now, the company's contracts with them were approved despite opposition from those who disputed the authority of the official tribal councils. So it sounds like this did not go very well. The Black Mesa mine was eventually suspended in 2006 after the mine's sole customer retired. The site was then fully decommissioned in 2010.
Yeah, okay, so we've just got this round is tragic, really. I think this round is emblematic of why we can't have nice things. And, what's wrong with the world right now? Why is this okay? So, you know what I'm going to say? And again, just to cap it all off, jumping back over to our other competitor, Robert Vesco. A fictionalized version of him is featured prominently in the sixth season episode of The Blacklist, entitled Robert Vesco, in which he's portrayed by an actor. The fictional Vesco is shown to have faked his own death in Cuba in 2007 and to be in pursuit of a legendary shipwreck from a Spanish treasure fleet. Uh, Look, these are two. I have nothing good to say about either of these groups. And frankly, I think I'd like to have this round be a first, and I'd like to move on neither of them.
Yeah, I think we can definitely do that. I mean, we made the rules. It's our show. I think no one's the winner. You know what? That's
Oh,
not true. Everyone else who's not these people, you're better. You're the winner.
that's right. So everybody else, you're not actually moving on to the next round because it's not your turn yet. But again, this is a show going through everything in infinity. So you will have your fair chance. But both of these, frankly, stink. And we could do without a whole lot of everything that they're doing. So neither of you are moving on to the next round, but we are. Let's get ourselves in to round 5.
Round 5.
Round 5.
In round 5, we have Keith DeCandido. He looks like a much nicer man than our last competitor. And William Oswald Mills.
All righty. Hey, both of these people in the pictures are smiling at least. Neither of them seem to be in prison or deserve to be. So let's jump in and try and enjoy these two competitors and their absolute destruction of one another presently.
Now, Keith DeCandido is an American science fiction and fantasy writer and musician who works on comic books, novels, role-playing games, video games, and numerous media tie-in books for properties such as Star Trek, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Doctor Who, Supernatural, Andromeda, Farscape, Leverage, Spider-Man, X-Men, Sleepy Hollow, and even Stargate SG-1. He was born April 18th, 1969, in the Bronx, the son of Robert D. Candido and Grace Ann Andrassi D. Candido. He claims to have been a Star Trek fan even before his birth, as his parents were fans of the original series.
Yeah, this guy is what you might, and let me, with all of the best connotations, say a nerd through and through. He attended New Rochelle Academy and then Cardinal Spellman High School in the Bronx before attending Fordham University. There, he worked as an editor and writer of one of the college newspapers, simply called The Paper. But after graduation, he worked as an editor at several publishing companies. He co produced a public access television cable TV show in Manhattan about science fiction called The Chronic Rift, which he also co hosted, as we're doing right now, Rob. We got a little something in common with him co hosting a show. He's also able to host his own monthly podcast called Dead Kitchen Radio. Shout out, I guess. And he spent much of his career writing Star Trek fiction. He's written tie-ins for other popular sci-fi and fantasy series as well. You named a lot of those before. Basically, this guy, he seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah, he does seem like a lot of fun, and I don't know how helpful our shout-out is, but if he hears us, maybe he can shout back. Now, his competitor probably won't be shouting back, and that's because William Oswald Mills Sr. is deceased. He passed away May 24th, 1973, but he was a Republican congressman who represented the 1st Congressional District of Maryland from May 25th of 1971 until his death in Easton, Maryland, 2 years later.
But a lot took place in between those 2 points in time. Born in Bethlehem, Maryland on August 12th, 1924, he went to Maryland public schools, graduated high school, and pursued military service, serving in the Army in 1942 during World War II as part of General George Patton's Third Army during the crossing of the Rhine River in Germany. Pretty significant. He was awarded a Bronze Star, and then after the war, he worked his way up in rank as the manager of the offices of Easton, Maryland, Preston, Maryland, Cambridge, Maryland, a whole bunch of places in Maryland. And beginning in 1962, he served on the staff of then Congressman Rogers Morton as a Democrat until finally becoming a Republican, just switching back and forth there, in 1970.
Now, he then won a special election to take the seat after Rogers Morton was appointed Secretary of the Interior by none other than Richard Nixon, who we talked about.
He keeps coming up. Oh, my goodness.
I told you we'd talk about him later. Here he is again. Now, it wasn't all roses for this guy, so we're going to actually talk about his death here in a minute. But before we do that, it was a tragic death. It was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So if you or someone you know are struggling with thoughts of depression or self-harm or suicide, call someone. You should do that. I think this is a great time to put in a helpful plug. Sometimes we put in kind of funny ones, but no, seriously, if you feel like you need help, you should go do that. There are numbers you should call and people you can talk to, and don't hesitate to do that. So he was found dead May 24th, 1973, near a stable near his home at the age of 48. A self-inflicted gunshot wound to the left side of his chest. It is reported that he had been depressed following the death of 3 of his congressional aides in a car accident the year before, and the fact that his mentor and predecessor was also suffering from cancer. So this guy had some things he was going through.
Yeah, and those things in particular were basically 5 days before his death. It was revealed that he had received an undisclosed $25,000 gift from the Finance Committee of President Richard Nixon's reelection campaign during the 1971 special election. Overall, it was part of $900,000 in unaccounted donations made by the committee. If Mills was convicted ultimately of conducting illegal activity, he would have faced a $1,000 fine and 1 year in prison. Definitely not as bad as taking one's own life. So again, check out those numbers if that's something you're concerned with. Now, while Mills initially stated that he had done nothing wrong, he began worrying that the campaign contribution would destroy his political career. And in one of his suicide notes, he noted that he could not prove his innocence and saw it as the only option. So don't forget that it's never the only option, and reach out for assistance and perhaps distract yourself with fiction, science fiction, and the like. Take yourself into another world, perhaps, beyond this one that we are in. And those could include the works of our other competitor, Keith DeCandido.
Yeah, he's got a very, very long list of works here, and he's also an avid Yankees fan and frequent contributing commenter to the Replacement Level Yankees weblog and to Pinstripe Alley. He's written Star Trek novels, short stories, comic books. There's a lot of Star Trek things here. Precinct novels, other novels, like we said, Spider-Man, Dungeons and Dragons, Sleepy Hollow, lots and lots of novellas, short story collections written for other comic books, including the Cars comic book and the Kung Fu Panda comic book, which I didn't even know existed. And he's got a lot of other short fiction. So if you're looking for a way to spend 5 minutes or maybe 50 years, I think the works of Keith DeCandido could be something you could look into.
Absolutely. Yeah, and shoot, I'm even interested in doing so. As far as it goes in this round, I think that Keith R.A. DeCandido can do no wrong, and I'd like to move him on as my selection to the next round of the Ultimate Tournament of Everything. If you
The ultimate tournament of everything.
I agree.
all right, Keith DeCandido. That's a neato name, and we're going to see you in the next round whenever that occurs. But speaking of next round, let's get in to round 6.
Making a turn around the last curve. He comes around the last side, and there you have it. There is your winner, round 6.
In round 6, we have Miles B. Castle against the 2021 World's Strongest Man. Not the actual man, the competition.
Ho, 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 ho. Basically, muscle is the name of the game in this round here. Miles B. Castle. It's tough to topple a castle, but it's also tough to topple a competition of strongmen. So let's see which one of these will have the strength to lift themselves up into the next round.
Miles B. Castle, the B, of course, standing for everyone's favorite middle name, Beach, was an American banker, publisher, and politician from New York. Moving to DeKalb County, Illinois in 1856, he became a prosperous banker with the Sandwich Bank that does not deposit sandwiches. It's a misnomer. If you've ever been to Illinois, you know. If you haven't, now you're just hungry. And Kendall County Bank. He was elected to the Illinois Senate in 1872, where he served 3 terms.
He surely did. Oh man, though, I'm just thinking about like safes full of sandwiches. You know, you got your pastrami, you got your ham and cheese, not to mention your jelly jam and peanut butter sandwiches. Oh, shoot. Now I'm starving, but I'm also starving for information. So I'm going to gorge myself on the rest of this article. Born in Albany, New York, August 11th, 1826, his father managed a farm in Dutchess County. Now, this Miles B. Castle attended the Jonesville Academy and upon graduating, accepted a clerkship in a dry goods store in Glen Falls, rising to the rank of store manager by the time he left that company in 1855.
Now that year, he moved westward to Sandwich, Illinois to open a lumber yard. He then opened Sandwich Bank in 1856 and married Freelove Kinney Hubbard, the daughter of Asa Kinney, on January 21st of 1857. And he founded the Kendall County Bank in Yorkville, 1870. How funny is it that this man was all about the money and married a lady named Freelove?
Yeah, well, if you're gonna be all about the money, you gotta stay thrifty, you know. So, hey, I'm not going to comment on anything further than that. But what I will comment on is that Castle took an interest in Republican Party politics, and in 1872, he was elected on the party ticket to the Illinois Senate and then reelected twice. He served 3 two-year terms. Rob, that's a total of 6 years if you're counting. Elected chairman of the Committee on Public Buildings and Grounds, pushed for the first bill for the protection of fishing rights in Illinois.
He then chaired the executive committee of the Illinois State Equal Suffrage Association, and in 1887 he began to publish the Sandwich Argus with his son, John. Through his publishing interests, he became a member of the Illinois State Press Association and the Press Club of Chicago. He died August 10th, 1900.
This guy was definitely a strong, politician there in the time. Is probably all those sandwiches that he ate. But was he as strong as our other competitor, the 2021 World's Strongest Man competition? This was, in fact, the 44th edition of the World's Strongest Man competition, an event that took place in Sacramento, California. And let's look. The defending champion, Oleksiy Novikov of Ukraine, failed to progress to the final after coming fourth in his respective heat.
Now, the winner of this competition was Tom Stoltman, the British professional strongman, who is also the two-time World's Strongest Man and also Britain's Strongest Man. What a strong guy.
Yeah, it's definitely prestigious to be. A lot of notable participants here. Graham Hicks of the UK ultimately withdrew, was replaced by Irvin Toots of Estonia, and as a result, Gavin Bilton, who, as we all know, of the UK, was moved from Group 5 to Group 1, and Toots took Bilton's place in Group 5, basically a veritable musical chairs of strongmen.
Now, the final events had events such as the Giants Medley, where you lift a 970-pound yoke on a 770-pound frame.
That's a big egg.
For 33 feet. This is the Titans turntable, which is 66,000 pounds, and you take that for 98 feet. The rain keg toss. That everyone knows what that is. You take a keg and you throw it as far as you can. One guy threw it 25 feet. Is it not horizontally, vertically? Okay.
Oh wow!
Vertically, he could throw me into the sky. A log lift, 370-pound log lift. The knack deadlift, 770 pounds, and they went for repetitions with one of them doing it 10 times. These. I don't know why I'm so amazed. These are clearly the world's strongest people.
Absolutely. I mean, this event in itself is ridiculous, but so is the strength of all of its participants. So much so that there were several records set and even broken, I'm sure, at this event. Mark Felix appeared in his record 16th World's Strongest Man contest. It's held annually, folks, so that's a long time. Brian Shaw qualified for his record 13th, breaking a tie held with him in another. All 13 of these finals were consecutive, which was another record. Travis Ortmayer set a record for longest absence. He was out for 10 years, came back, and was still strong as anything. And in the third event of the final, 4 men broke the previous world record in the keg toss for height, which had stood at 7.25 meters, held by Brian Shaw. We've already mentioned him. But Konstantin Janashia achieved 7.26 meters, whereas Tom Stoltman and Maxime Brudrialt reached 7.5. But Shaw reset his record at 7.75 meters. As you said, vertically.
Vertically. I am just amazed. And, we can keep talking about their feats, or we can keep talking about that man who opened the banks, but I think we all know who wins.
I think that Miles B. Castle lost by miles. I think that Miles B. Castle lost by miles is what I'm trying to say. And perhaps, a lot of people say that you can only trust someone as far as you can throw them. Well, I reckon that everybody at this World's Strongest Man competition could have thrown our other guy pretty far and straight up, for that matter. And so for that reason alone, I think the both of us are in agreement. We're moving on 2021 World's Strongest Man competition to the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
I just loved watching that on TV as a kid.
Me too.
And I'd always try to replicate it. They'd be like, they're holding up an axe out to their side. It's like holding 8 gallons of milk. So I'd go get like a gallon of milk and be like, I'm almost as strong as them. I'm not.
Nope. Nobody is, really. Yeah, nobody could possibly lift that weight. A weight that is increasingly nearing infinity, as are we here in the ultimate tournament of everything. So let us continue that march as we move on to round seven.
Round seven. Round seven. Round seven. Round seven.
In round 7, we have KJJP against John Richardson.
All right. Yes, two contestants in this round who definitely deserve to be heard. So let's jump right in and hear all we can about them.
KJJP 105.7 FM is a radio station licensed to Amarillo, Texas. The station is owned by Kansas Society Incorporated and is an affiliate of the High Plains Radio Network.
Yeah, this station, radio station, began broadcasting on December 6th of 1991, airing an easy listening format and held the call sign of KAEC. It adopted a soft AC format in 1993, but in 1999, the station was sold to KXOJ Inc. for $750,000, adopting a Christian contemporary format and was rebranded as The Breeze.
Now, that was not the end of the road for this station, because in 2004 it was sold to Kansas Society Incorporated for $1.25 million and became an affiliate of High Plains Public Radio. On October 8, 2004, its call sign changed to KJJP. Although Amarillo is the largest urban center in the HPPR coverage area, this was the first time most of the area had received a clear signal from an NPR station. The region had already been served by HPPR repeater KTXP in nearby Bushland, but it operated at only 1,000 watts. Its signal so weak that HPPR had to install a low-powered transistor serving Amarillo itself on 94.9 FM. Now, if you're listening from the KJJP and you like the dulcet sounds of us saying your name on the radio, or in this case the podcast, give us a listen, give us a comment, and maybe we'll do it again.
Yeah, we can even be syndicated. We're open to that because it doesn't sound like you've got necessarily a whole lot else going on. But do let us know. This is a station that definitely played the hits. But speaking of hits, let's get on to our other competitor, Mr. John Richardson, who's an American former Negro League third baseman, baseball player who played in the 1920s.
He made his Negro Leagues debut in 1922 with the Hilldale Club and went on to play for the Birmingham Black Barons in 1924. Now, I'm sure there is more to this man, but unfortunately, that is the end of the article.
It truly is, but it's not the end of the story. There were so much, learn about this league. It would be influential. The Negro Leagues were the United States professional baseball leagues comprising of teams of African Americans and, to a lesser extent, Latin Americans. And basically, there weren't a lot of opportunities for any individuals of color at the time. And so there was a lot of huge talent there that the other leagues would not allow in the time. But if they would have, look, they should have been, but they weren't. But here they show up now, one by one, in the ultimate tournament of everything, standing their ground at the plate, taking their swings. So, Rob, who's knocking it out of the park?
Well, we all know it's the baseball. I mean, NPR is great, but it is just NPR. It's a known entity. So when I take NPR or a baseball game, I think we all know when you need to install a second repeater because people aren't listening to your first one, we're going with the baseball.
Absolutely. Even in today's day and age, this KJJP is struggling to be heard, but yet through the eons of time echoes the name John Richardson, baseball player. And so, yeah, I'm totally sold. Third baseman, too. Like, that's a tough position to play. First base, you got a lot of attention on you because people, almost everybody makes it to first base. Third base is only the real good ones.
Yeah, the really, really good ones. Although I don't think that's quite how baseball works, at least in this
I
case.
have no idea how baseball works, but you know what I do know how it works is this, the ultimate tournament of everything, and it's working for me. Mr. John Richardson, you're moving on to the next round of...
The ultimate tournament of everything.
Field goal.
Well,
Touchdown.
no.
3 points.
now that he made it to 7th base, I guess there's one more base to the next.
That's
I
true.
say, would you by chance have any round 8?
Round 8!
In round 8, we have Aiden Chambers against Leptospira alstani.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We've got ourselves a semi-retired professional wrestler. Okay, pretty sweet. Versus a gram-negative mobile spirochete. I don't truly understand either of these. So let's jump in and see what we can learn.
I'm sure one of them's actually made up, and I'm hoping the other one isn't. And it's up for our listener to decide which one. Now, Scott Beach, also known as his ring name Aiden Chambers, is best known for his appearances with the East Coast Wrestling Association in the 2000s and Ring of Honor in the early 2010s. Now, in the East Coast Wrestling Association, he teamed with Kakoa, the Flying Hawaiian, to win the 2012 K-Cup, resulting in Aiden being entered into their 2013 Hall of Fame as the only man to win every championship and tournament in the company, having won heavyweight, mid-Atlantic, tag team, in the Super 8 tournament, and after being inducted into the Hall of Fame, he retired.
Yeah, I mean, what more can you do than do everything in some sort of, mostly, because, I mean, come on, people, it's wrestling, right? We're not talking about like Olympic wrestling here. I could see from the picture, this guy's, this is entertainment sports type of wrestling stuff. But he does have a lot of accomplishments. He won the ECWA Heavyweight Championship one time, the Mid-Atlantic Championship one time, tag team twice with his pre-aforementioned friend, the Flying Hawaiian. All those other tournaments. He was also in other wrestling associations, including Fusion Wrestling, Maryland Championship Wrestling, NWA Anarchy. And he was even rated several times in Pro Wrestling Illustrated, though never... Looks like out of the top 500, his highest placement, a lot in the 300s. He did make it to 270 in 2009.
Well, that's good for him. It sounds like he's really great. He's done everything he needed to do. Now the question is, Leptospira alstoni, the gram-negative mobile spirochete, what does it do? And I don't know if I know, and I'm going to try and read the article, and we'll see if I get smarter, but I doubt it. So it is a flexible, helical, and modal by means of two paraplasmic flagella. It is obligately aerobic and oxidase positive. It was named after J.M. Alston, a British microbiologist. So apparently it's I'm going to go with the bacteria, maybe.
Yes, that's exactly right. Now, gram-negative bacterias are bacteria that do not retain crystal violet stain used in gram staining method of bacterial differentiation. I think we all remember that from our, from basic schooling. They said it every day right after we said the Pledge of Allegiance, characterized by their cell envelopes, which are composed of a thin peptidoglycan cell wall sandwiched between an inner one. Basically, this is some sort of tiny little microscopic bacteria thing that does, in fact, it turns out, exist.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of other scientific words that I don't think are going to do us any good, but it is a bacteria that has been discovered and studied and continues to be studied. So which one of these competitors is going to take it down for the rest of the rounds? Who's going to bring the other one to the mat and become the winner?
Let's see here. Now, our Leptospira alstini can and has been isolated and stored in liquid nitrogen. It's also been isolated in China from a frog, and the culture is also available from the WHO. It's a World Health Organization collaborating centers. Um, it's we don't have a lot of information about what it does. Is this a hard hitter? Will this knock you out if you have to face off with it? Because Mr. Aiden Chambers clearly will.
Well, I think him and I would rehearse it beforehand, and we'd decide how he would knock me out. Isn't that how
Mm,
professional wrestling goes?
yeah, that is. So he's never really beaten anybody up for real, as far as I know. Is just reading this article, it's really just a delicate dance, I suppose, of strong men flying around, not throwing kegs vertically in the air, but perhaps throwing themselves through the air with the greatest of ease. However, this Lapstospira alstini, it's also flexible, as I'm sure he is, helical, not sure what that means, and motile by means of two periplasmic flagella. Does that mean it's got legs too? I'm thinking that this little thing, it's for real, whereas the other guy, he's kind of just playing.
Well, it sounds like I think we're going to need a tiebreaker to decide which one of these is the best for this round.
Ding ding.
So, as we know, we settle tiebreakers here the old fashioned way. Mike and I will fight, and by fight I mean professional wrestle, but one of us will have a sample of this bacteria. Will that lead one of us to impending doom, or maybe the ladder match of our dreams? There's only one way to find out.
Yeah, I left my little tiny singlet and almost. I mean, look at this guy. Wrestlers are not known for wearing a lot of clothes. I don't have any of that prepared, and I'm also a little self-conscious. Why don't just pull up a number between 1 and 10,000? We'll assign one of these to each of us. I tell you what, I'll take the bacteria, and we'll see which one's going to move on.
Okay, what number would you like for the bacteria?
For the bacteria, I think I'm gonna go with uh 1983, because that's when it was originally isolated from materials submitted to a veterinary diagnostic laboratory at Iowa State University.
I'm going to go with Aiden Chambers' highest ever ranking with PWI 270. And our number, randomly selected between 1 and 10,000, is 1,300. We gotta do math. Okay.
Gotta do math.
What number did you pick?
1983.
I think you win.
Okay, I don't remember the number you picked, but I'll take it. Leptospira alstani. You are, I guess, by default, moving on to the next round of...
The ultimate tournament of everything.
There are people listening to this be like, those numbers aren't even close. Why do they need to do math?
Yeah. Why are they the ones who decide who's the greatest of everything? Well, you know what? It's because we decided that we were going to get to it because nobody else was, and that's what we're here to do. And frankly, we're doing the best we can. So let's continue that trend and move on to round 9.
It's about time for round 9. Round 9.
In round 9, we have Nanchu Yo Koi Yo Yatura Yuno against SGPP1.
Yes, both of these come from and or sound like they could be sweet girl idol groups. Both great names for great music and or it looks like an enzyme. So let's see which one is going to sing and bop and choreograph dance into the next round.
So the song, also called You Know, is the 7th single by the Japanese girl idol group Berry's Kobo. It was released in Japan in 2005 and debuted at number 5 in the Daily Oricon Singles Chart and at number 13 in the weekly Oricon Singles Chart. The title song was used as an ending theme in the kids station anime Petero Sayuki.
Yep, definitely a song. I would love to hear it, but for copyright reasons and there's no link available, we can't. Looks like it came out on a single, which had not one, but three tracks on it, including the aforementioned one, another instrumental version of that one, and another song called Yume de Do Up. And it was also on a DVD, which included a making of the song, perhaps the video. What I'd like to know, this is a girl idol group. Um, can you just claim that you're an idol group, or like, it's not just like a, a boy band, a girl band. This is a girl idol group. So can we be a an idol podcast? Can we just decide that?
No, and here's why. They apparently have training. They're primarily singers with training in acting, dancing, and modeling. They're commercialized through merchandise and endorsements by talent agencies. And to have a talent agent, you must first have talent.
And that would be the missing factor here. But you know what is not what has is so far missing in this round is information about our other contestants. So let's jump on over to learn about SGPP1.
SGPP1, also known as sphingosine 1-phosphate phosphatase 1, is an enzyme that in humans is encoded by the SGPP1 gene.
It surely is, and that's surely all that we have available to us as far as information goes.
Well, while you are thinking through your mind whether you want to move on the song by the girl idol group or this enzyme that is probably beneficial to your living, we just want to talk about this show a little bit more. You're listening right now to a full-length episode that comes out every Tuesday and Thursday where we compare 18 of Infinity's best and most random competitors, as you've heard. Every other day of the week, you get not an episode like this, but a much smaller episode, a much smaller taste of Infinity, where we look at just one competitor and give them their full due.
Yes, perhaps as small as an enzyme that we know almost nothing about, but frankly, we didn't even know that existed before this episode. And that's the type of, brilliant introduction to the variety of existence that exists here in the life that we are all living together. So we're glad that you're sharing that time with us, and speaking of us, it's time that you and I decide who's going to move on to the next round. This unknown enzyme, SGPP1, kind of sounds like a sci-fi movie, versus this girl idol group with it's just this song that we've never heard and really know nothing about.
Well, we could decide, or we could leave it up to the people. And by the people, I mean the people listening. If you are listening to this anywhere other than Anchor FM, you can stop, go to Anchor FM, move all the way to the very end of this episode, and you'll see a poll where you can pick which one of these competitors will be the winner, and we'll announce that winner on our next episode.
Absolutely. The suspense is killing me, but I'm living for it. So can't wait for you to join us next time. Let's see, this is coming out on a Tuesday, so that's just going to be on Thursday that we'll get to explain the victor, tell you who it's going to be. And in the meantime, we'll have a short coming out just as we do every other day of the week. That's not Tuesday and Thursday. Thank you for joining us tonight. Don't forget to rate us 5 stars. Comment how much you like it. Look for the Ultimate Tournament of Everything Facebook group. And please join us tomorrow.
The ultimate tournament of everything.